Well, good morning. Good morning. Good to see you here, and Jeff, thanks for the intro, and thanks to the GEOINT community for this invitation. I'm honored to be here alongside the very best in GEOINT and the broader Intel communities. It's inspiring to be here, and the innovators of industry are pushing the bounds of what is possible. And I was really impressed last night to see the interaction, the camaraderie. I'm sure free libations didn't hurt, but to see the interaction was truly impressive. But what was really impressive is when I went to the gym at 0600 this morning to find there wasn't a treadmill available nor a stair climber, and everybody was in there working out. So great to this Intel community for being able to do both. So thank you all. I want to take us back to February. All of you remember the morning hours early, February 24th, when Russia began its unprovoked, unjustified, and what we have all witnessed is a brutal invasion of Ukraine. While that moment was shocking in its recklessness, it was not a surprise. Thanks to this GEOINT community, the world was not surprised. But from the very moment that the first Russian tanks crossed into the border on that day, we've witnessed two surprising truths. First, the impact of Intel, especially GEOINT, in the information space. And second, the resounding resilience of the human spirit. The enduring value of this GEOINT community, which I have personally witnessed for decades, in the people driving and helping drive decisions. By providing decision advantage to our leaders and by influencing the decision calculus of our adversaries. This morning, what I hope to do is highlight three broad trends that impact both our special operations community and I hope also the GEOINT professionals. First is the importance of information. Second, the power of partnerships. And third, the primacy of the human spirit. All three are important in the Ukraine today, and all three will be critically important in the decades to come. First, let's flash back to December 21. The very first images of Russian troop buildup along Ukraine's border hit the mainstream media. The press widely shared what the intelligence community was seeing, using commercial satellite imagery to do so. Unmistakably, imagery of the buildup careened through social media, continuing for weeks, despite Russia's continual denial. Intelligence, GEOINT, played a critical role in that information space. But it wasn't the first time. Almost 2 years before, in May 2020, our military shared images of Russia's aircraft in Libya, unmistakable proof that Russia was supporting the Libyan warlords, and doing so with mercenaries and with its own military equipment, despite Russia's otherwise denial. In both cases, the deliberate choices to declassify intelligence built resolve. Yes, we do overclassify, which at times can slow our collective response. But sharing sensitive assessments with trusted allies was not new. What was new, especially in Ukraine, was that commercial satellite imagery enabled the public to see much of what our intelligence professionals were seeing. That's a tidal shift in the impact of these commercial feeds. The more important shift was this imagery was shared widely via social media. But why share the intelligence for the world to see? Over the past few months, something has come clear to me. First, to warn the Ukrainian public, jump-starting their defensive posture and bolstering their resilience. Also, to counter disinformation and false narratives by building consensus based on fact and building a coalition, to build a resolve that was all grounded in the truth, and to influence adversary decision calculus, that an invasion wouldn't be quick and it wouldn't be easy. It speaks to the power of the information space, where we must always strive to be first with the truth. Anybody want to know what the best indicator of what Russia is planning to do next? Just listen to what they publicly blame the U.S. on. That's what it is. They try to do it every time by sowing that disinformation and attempting to use false flags. But in so many cases, we got ahead of it by releasing it before they could do it. But it all speaks to the enduring importance of the cognitive domain. Deterring and warfighting, above all, are human endeavors with human decision makers. The second broad trend I will highlight is the power of partnerships. Last month, in the dead of the night, 3 European leaders boarded an overnight train to Kiev, a capital under siege. Prime ministers from the Czech Republic, Poland, and Slovenia made that trip to be face-to-face with President Zelensky. In person, they demonstrated their nation's resolve. And as all of you saw the news breaking yesterday, our own Secretary of State and our Secretary of Defense went in to meet with the President to show our resolve from the United States, with the Ukrainian people. Over the past few months in Ukraine, we've seen that differing responses by allies and partners can be an asset. Differing responses can be an asset because of the capabilities that are given. But a dynamic conflict requires a range of credible options that are multiplied by allies and partners. Our Special Operations Forces have decades of experience, training, and operating along the Special Operations Forces of those 3 nations whose leaders visited Kiev that mid-March: our Czech, our Polish, and our Slovenian soft counterparts. And we're still working with them today to provide capabilities to the Ukrainians. More importantly, we foster deep, long-term relationships with SOF from all of our NATO allies and many of our European partners, because you cannot surge trust during a crisis. You have to build it up over time. That's why our allies and partners are our unmatched advantage. It is the power of partnerships. But it's not just our international partnerships, it's also SOCOM's interagency partnerships that are equally powerful, whether it's with NGA, DIA, NSA, or the many other intel and governmental agencies with whom we work. The past 20 years of counterterrorism efforts that have forged lasting and critical integration with those partners remain. While the interagency interaction and integration is a hallmark of our command, it extends throughout our military, built throughout a common purpose since 9/11. Many in the room today can attest to that. That integration and those partnerships have opened new doors and offer creative solutions. Our partnerships, both international and interagency, are even more powerful with the right tools. The rapid sharing of intel is critical, and advances in commercial imagery facilitate that sharing. I know that our partners feel the strain of sharing. We see it inside our own SOCOM headquarters. In fact, on a recent trip to the Middle East, I visited one of our counterterrorism intel sharing operations, and they had made a coffee mug and had it imprinted. And what was written on that coffee mug was "Yes, foreign." What was written on that coffee mug was "Yes, foreign," because we have a culture, unfortunately, that automatically takes us to no foreign. I was reading a Joint Staff product this morning. It was talking about the French election, completely open source, same thing I read this morning in different news sources. What had it been classified? Secret, no foreign. We have to break that culture. We have to get out of that. It is what I call the easy button for classification. And while high-end exquisite capabilities are essential, Our commercial capabilities are becoming increasingly capable, and they're easily shared with our allies and partners. And our other source that we have to take advantage of is our open source intelligence with publicly available information and commercial data sets. OSINT has become a critical complement to GEOINT, especially when we layer it all together. Our modernization efforts at SOCOM now aim to incorporate those commercial satellite feeds, layer them with OSINT and other intelligence across all security classifications, and our end state is to push them all to the tactical edge where our operators can best use them to make and have decision advantage. The third and final broad trend is something we've overlooked over the past year. And we've overlooked, unfortunately, twice very poorly. And that's underestimating the primacy of the human spirit. Last August, we overestimated that the will of the Afghan forces that we had trained with would prevail. Despite many incredible acts of courage, Afghan forces and the Afghan government fell to the Taliban in 11 days, contrary to all of our assessments. Then in the last 2 months, we made a similar mistake. This time we underestimated the human spirit in Ukraine, but so did Putin. In this GEOINT community, it may be easy to overemphasize only what imagery reveals, but warfighting is fundamentally a human endeavor. People choose to fight, people choose to resist. Russian tactics have shocked the world's consciousness in their brutality, and they stoked outrage worldwide. But more importantly, they've reinforced the resounding resilience of the Ukrainian spirit. While it's humans who fight, it's also humans who have to innovate. People create new technologies. People use tools in new ways. And our people are the creative problem solvers, the ones who pursue every avenue to deter aggression, but who are also willing to sacrifice boldly in efforts to prevail. At SOCOM, we have 5 soft truths. The one I will highlight for you today is soft truth number 1. Humans are more important than hardware. That does not mean that we won't pursue the finest hardware available. We certainly do, but we will weight it accordingly. As we modernize our intel capabilities, foremost is pursuing decision advantage for our people. The flood of new imagery capabilities is overwhelming. Data-driven technologies like artificial intelligence are essential. Our people need AI-enabled tools to sift through the mountains of data across security classifications in order to draw the right conclusions and to enable decision advantage. For soft, we need to push these capabilities to the tactical edge where we often operate alongside our allies and partners. As I think about soft truth number 1, I know this is where our soft community sees eye to eye with the GEOINT community, because people are our most treasured resource. We must invest in them. We must invest in our talent. These are dedicated professionals, and they are our trusted problem solvers. They are the ones experimenting with the new technologies, and I guarantee they will use these technologies in new, but in many cases, unexpected ways from what we originally thought their purpose would be. If we invest in the skill sets of our talented GEOINT professionals and arm them with the cutting tools from industry, then we will maintain our decisive advantage. I'll close with a final thought, and then I look forward to your questions. I've spoken about how this GEOINT community drives decisions, and I've touched on 3 trends: the importance of information, the power of partnerships, and the primacy of the human spirit. As I look around this room, I'm hopeful. Americans have risen to the challenge for generations. They've answered the call time and time again. our brilliant innovators in industry working together with our intel community and our warfighters to solve our toughest problems, all to preserve our cherished freedoms. That is a partnership that no adversary can match. Thank you. Thanks for having me here. I look forward to your questions.
Thanks, boss. That was great. Great. I love the mix between the appreciation and the challenge for what's next. As I mentioned earlier, and as this audience knows well, the command that you lead has earned its reputation for agility and innovation, and you spoke to some of that. When you think about your GEOINT requirements and needs, how do you kind of break it down between what the command will do, under your leadership, and what you might turn to Admiral Sharp and the team at NGA for?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the question, Robert. What we have found for our command is SOCOM at the command level, the 4-star level, really has to look at policy, resources, requirements. But what we have always found the biggest advantage is pushing it as far forward as possible. Pushing it with the tactical lead on, and what specifically NGA, but our entire intel community has done is put those people forward. Put those people at the forward fighting headquarters, and truthfully link that all the way back, sometimes to SOCOM, but many times back to the direct intel or support agency, and tie in that entire ecosystem. As a 4-star, I'm not every day fighting the tactical fight, as many of you can understand. So it's more important that it get pushed back and down. And specific for NGA, right now, today, well over 100 NGA folks embedded in SOCOM formation. Probably at the height of the conflict, hundreds of NGA in our forward talks and joint operations centers every single day. Thanks.
So I'm going to stick with people. You spoke eloquently about their importance to you and to the mission. Any tips that you can provide on how you attract and retain? And if you could, speak as well on the diversity piece of it, how you're trying to bring in different parts of America to your team.
We want the entire population of the United States to be interested in coming to U.S. Special Operations Command. Why leave any? We don't want to leave any talent on the table. Many of us personally, and I have personally engaged with universities, academia, industry, but so do our subordinate commanders, and that's including going into places that we may not have sought talent in before. Going to historically black university and colleges, looking around through all of America, and putting the right investments in place. We're changing some of our recruiting models. Now, what's good for Special Operations Command, it's still a place where people want to come. They see the mission, they want to come, and what the people in the formation and the people that want to come to the formation, they also want to make sure that we're maintaining the highest standards, because they want to be with like capable people that they know. So maintaining the standards, keeping them high, not changing anything except who we're trying to attract and bring in.
Great. I'm going to move to the technology side. SOCOM was an early entrant into the partnership intermediary agreements when you stood up SOFWORKS. Yeah. It's been a great model for that public-private partnership. How are things going at SOFWORKS? And can you pass on any lessons learned?
Yeah. SOFWORKS is our entity, and a couple things have been really key in that. One, it is still going well. We purposely put it in downtown Ybor City. Anybody been to Ybor City? Yeah, those who have been there, it's about 15 miles from Tampa. It's actually a growing place in Tampa, and the bars aren't too far away either. But it's a nice part. We put it off campus. because we didn't want people to be stymied because they need security clearances and ID cards and have to come in through the gate and leave their cell phones behind. But it's an open, open architecture place where we encourage folks in. We do all kinds of symposiums, let people bring in their proposals, and it's all constantly an innovation hub for us there in Tampa. And I think I was just there a couple weeks ago with our folks, and truthfully, I brought in a bunch of senior leaders from across industry just to show what we're doing. And I would encourage all of you, if you have the opportunity when you come visit Tampa, to come in and see our SoftWorks, because it really is one of our many innovation hubs. And if I could, I'll put one more plug, because when I came into command at SOCOM, I knew one of the top 5 priorities I set for the command was innovate for future threats. And I talked earlier, we have hundreds of L&Os in SOCOM throughout the interagency in different positions, and we put that in for the counterterrorism fight for 20 years. We needed those connections. I looked at Innovate for Future Threats. I said, where are our partnerships and teams? We put lieutenant colonels into Austin, Boston, and Silicon Valley at full time that are tied to our students that are going to those top level universities, but also to tie into industry and the small businesses that are really developed, and tie into Army Futures Command also. So thanks for it's key for us.
By the way, the audience is doing quite well texting in your questions. Thank you. So I'm going to have to do some combining here to get to a number of the audience questions. But I've got a couple here that, quite frankly, I'm going to add myself. I'll be quite interested in your answer, because this one's about climate change. Yeah. And where and how does the command think about it with respect to your mission and role?
Yeah. Here's the way I look at climate change. Is what does it do to the human dynamics globally that allow for counterterrorism forces to evolve? And so if there's lack of food, lack of water, it changes migration, that moves populations. It could disenfranchise different groups that may then say, I don't have anything here, I may need to line up with violent extremism. Because that's my only way out. These people are giving me something. And so I look at the impacts of the climate change and what it does inside that. And so that's the main focus for SOCOM, is the underlying pinnings of what this causes.
Thank you. Your coffee mug story touched a nerve in the audience. Yes, foreign. A number of people said, we seem to, by the way, I made the same speeches, so it's not just you. We make these speeches and we say that we need to be more yes foreign. What's in the way? What's keeping us from moving to that coffee mug?
Yeah. As I mentioned, number one is just culture. Number one is just culture. Before I send a classified email, I have to push a certain button. What's the top button on my choice list? No foreign. When I hit secret, and then my top button to hit is no foreign. It's easy. I'm going to click the top button because it's the fastest one to get to. That's the culture that we put things in place that automatically take you to a no foreign approach. But then I think there has been an over-reliance to over-classify. And I think we will learn from things like the current conflict in Ukraine that to be more effective, we have to open things earlier. And yet every situation is going to be different. There are things that, as a nation, as a government, we have to protect, and we should protect. And we should protect those to the highest degree we can. But I think we really have to put more emphasis on that declassification or opening it up, complete declassification or opening up to allies and partners.
Thanks. got a closing question for you, but before I do, I've got a public service announcement that was requested from the audience. Given your former role as Commandant, this is from a former Army baseball player who tells me that the Army beat Navy this weekend in a 3-game series, so I just want to make sure you were aware of that success.
I had no idea. None whatsoever. All right.
General, we just have a couple minutes left. You spoke passionately about the importance of people. Our golden ticket winners are sitting in the first 2 rows right in front of you. So as you can see, General, your finish line for this chapter in your remarkable service to our country, what advice and counsel would you give to the next generation as they seek to achieve levels of leadership and position and impact?
I mean, pretty simple. And from my own personal story, I never had any design or goal to be the USSOCOM commander, to be a 4-star general. But what I found throughout my career was just working hard every single day, trying to show value to whatever organization to which I was a part of, and then just work well with others. Develop the relationships and develop friends throughout throughout my career with continued growth. And look, I look back on my career until I was 24 years in the military. I never served in the same place twice. I never went back to the same camp, post, duty station, same unit over and over. I was always moving to different places, and I think that broadening opportunity of seeing different things, seeing different type of leadership, working with many other organizations was really helpful. So thanks.
Great. General, not just for your time this morning, your remarks to our audience, but please join me in a warm round of applause for the General's time here today, but his service to our nation. Thank you.
Thanks. It's been great.